Welcome back. The State Department says it's in the, quote, exploration stage of agentic AI. More than 50,000 State Department users around the world are using the StateBot chatbot. Kelly Fletcher is the Chief Information Officer at State. Kelly, welcome. It's great to see you again. What's the broad landscape look like with AI, agentic or not, at the department before we get into specifics?
Yeah, that's a great question. So almost 2 years ago, we rolled out State Chat, which is a generative AI chatbot. Has some State Department data and it has various different functions we've been building over time. But we rolled that out to 100,000 people at the State Department, so the full State Department customer base. We started with a pilot of 3,000 people just under 6 months after ChatGPT was released publicly. Honestly, for the State Department, generative AI is like the perfect technology for us. We translate things, we write a lot. It's pretty magical for our mission. And so we rolled it out to 3,000 users to start, and it was, it was in development. It crashed. You loaded a document that was too big, it crashed. PDFs worked fine, but an Excel table, forget about it. It was imperfect. And I'm so thankful we had these 3,000 users. They were committed to it. We would change the underlying prompt in a small way, and these users would notify us of the change in performance before our analytics did. It was so cool. So we actually have recently sort of hit the knee in the curve moment. We spent probably a year and a half just saying, use it, use it, use it. We built this for you, please use it. We now have well over 50,000 users. We have about 20,000 users every single week, unique users. We spent a lot of time encouraging folks to use it. And then they started using it. And now we're trying to get folks to use it to maximize their use of it, right? To enable them to, frankly, take advantage of everything it has, but not use it unnecessarily, right? Is it a Google search or is it a State Chat generative AI activity? We're trying to get folks to use it the right way to maximize efficiency.
How do you help them understand what the line is, maximize usage versus kind of over the top?
Yeah, so initially we just said use it for anything. You know what I mean? We just want you to be comfortable and see how cool it is. And so something we did is we stood up this custom GPT function where you could create your own custom GPT. The way that a lot of folks use it, which I think is brilliant, and we didn't think of it, they did, is they said, I'm having a big meeting and it's in Tokyo, and I need to, I have a stack of FAQs. What's the agenda? Where's dinner on the second night? Who do I call if I have a problem with my reservation? All of those FAQs. You put all that paper into your custom GPT, you call it your Tokyo meeting chatbot, and then you give access to all the people attending the meeting. So instead of those folks going through reams of paper, they can use generative AI to answer these questions. It's really cool. So we found folks were creating custom GPTs for awesome reasons that made sense and that were super useful. And we also found some folks that were playing around with it, and we love that. We love that they were using it and making, frankly, bad custom GPTs, but use it. But now we're at the place where we have to start to clean that up a little bit. You know what I mean? When we started, I remember when we had 100 custom GPTs, and I remember we had 600, and now we have 3,000. Some of them are bad. So it's time to sort of figure out how do we clean that up a little bit. They're still secure. They're still on a secure platform. They're not dangerous. They're just not all the product that we want to be putting forward for the enterprise.
You said something a moment ago that I know you love to leverage. We didn't think of it, they did. How do you leverage, not just in Gen AI, not just in AI, how do you leverage those moments and spread them across the department so that everybody knows what's going on?
Yeah, we have a really strong community of users, right? So some of it is not technologists, but technology users become super users. They talk to each other, they engage. And I thought organically this will grow. You know what I mean? They're sitting next to non-super users, it'll grow. But now we're being more intentional about it. So we have the AI Champions program. These are folks who explicitly part of their duties are to go around their embassy or their domestic office and say to people, hey, this is what I'm doing with AI. Would this work for you? They get to call themselves AI champions. They're a cohort. They get extra training. Honestly, it's really cool. So we're looking to expand it.
You told me before we went on the air that you've built a model garden. I love that name. What does that mean, and what does it mean especially to these end users, especially the super users that you're talking about?
So actually, super users are the only people who care. That is a great point. So within State Chat, we have a bunch of different models. Currently, for some of the functions in State Chat, you can choose a model. There's a default model, but you can choose whatever model might work best for your specific function. And super users are doing that. They're playing with models, which one's best. A lot of users are just sticking with the default. In the long term, part of the reason we have the model garden is to control costs. So different models are better at different things. Different models have, frankly, like more token use. So as we mature in this space, what we want to do is funnel prompts to the right model based on the requirements of the prompt. We're not there yet, but we're hoping for an automated sort of funneling to the right model within the model garden.
What is going to what is the push to agentic going to comprise at your agency? What do you have to do infrastructure-wise? What do you have to do training-wise and skills-wise for people to really leverage the power of agentic AI, Kelly?
So right now, I would say we have AI agents, but as a user, you don't really see them. They're in the background. But we're moving to roll something we're calling Beacon, and it is your personal administrative assistant. So all those things that how much leave do I have? I forgot my password on my phone. Do I have to go in to see someone, or can someone help? Like all the administrative toil, it's gonna help with that. We have the infrastructure to do it, but I'll tell you, it's the training that's getting us. Because right now, you would call all different help desks to solve these problems, and those help desks have scripts. And some of those scripts are great, and some of them are not. And so users who have been, people who have been working in that help desk forever, they're pros. They can answer complex questions. They've been around the block. They know when the script isn't right. They're doing some ad lib. Our agent isn't going to do that. So we're actually using AI to help to identify where our scripts aren't right. And then we're using Beacon to, use the scripts we have and have our customers go to Beacon. It's going to roll out as a test in early July.
You anticipated my next question, which is, are you going to scale it in the same way, start it with a small group of users, more, and then eventually to everybody?
So now it's a very small group of users. And July will have a bigger group, but still quite small, of users. And I'll tell you, my fear with this is that humans are humans. So when you call an IT support center, and we run a giant IT support center, if you get a person who is kind and has a friendly demeanor and they solve your problem, you think, what a great experience.
I'll do that next time.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so my concern is that if that person's wrong, because we're humans, we tend to think like, ugh, I got a bad person at the IT support center. Someone else could have solved this. Probably not. Probably the script is wrong. And so what we need is that agent to work consistently on the topics that it works on. And we found about 60% of our tickets from the IT support center could either be sped up or totally resolved through an agent. But we need the agent to be very clear if it can't help, right? We need to send you to the right place to get help, but it can't not help, because then we're going to be in a situation where folks just aren't going to trust it.
We have about a minute left for this part of the conversation. What kind of a timeline do you expect to be able to get through? It sounds like just a volume of stuff to be able to work through, even with the advantage of using AI tools.
So for the IT support center, I think we have a full plan for about 60% of the tickets we receive, which we receive almost 1 million tickets a year. Now rolling that out, we're going to see how it goes with users. I think we're going to get users. My hope is that 10 to 20% of their help desk questions are resolved through Beacon in the next 6 months.
All right, tech support is really important for tech, and we'll talk about that when we come back. More with Kelly Fletcher after the break. FedGov Today will be back in just a moment.
It's really about how do you treat software? Again, using the zero trust model. Why would you inherently trust software? We brought up the model of the old days of Microsoft Patch Tuesday. You inherently trusted every patch that came out because you have to. You have to patch your operating systems. Now the conversation is completely changed, and with kind of again, is best practices the best way to call it, or is SBOM? SBOM is what we've chosen.
Welcome back. The State Department's moving toward year 3 now of its Tech for Life initiative. Users take their devices wherever the department assigns them instead of getting new gear at each new post. Kelly Fletcher, the State Department CIO, is here to continue the conversation. And I bring that up, Kelly. I try not to go overboard on things that agencies do. Not my job, but I'm impressed by the fact that the last time you and I talked, you were continuing this effort and you didn't forget about it. A lot of times these things go away. Oh yeah, that was something we did. Yeah, we started that. I don't know whatever happened to it. As I said, year 3 of you're about to hit the first refresh cycle, I imagine, for Tech for Life.
Absolutely, yes. We care about this deeply because laptops are costing more than they used to, and we wish they didn't. But that's like sort of a flip way to say, like, yeah, we're refreshing. People who received Tech for Life 3 years ago, they get a new laptop. Phones, variable, but definitely laptop.
What have you learned over the years of this program to continue it and to continue the momentum?
So there's been a couple things that have made it challenging. One is that this doesn't work for everyone, everywhere, all the time. We have an asterisk. You're going certain places, not for you. You have certain kind of job functions that require very specific applications, also not for you. But we have found that it increases simplicity. Right? Part of our goal is to provision like secure, simple technology, like keeping it simple. So when you come in and join the Foreign Service, you just get a laptop and a phone. You know what I mean? It's your first day as a civil servant. Here's your laptop and your phone. I actually expected there would be a lot more pushback as people move, right? So now we've seen some people that are saying, I have Tech for Life, I brought it to Vienna, I'm moving to Ouagadougou, I want to bring my laptop. I thought there would be more pushback. And there's not.
Why did you think there would be pushback, and why do you think there hasn't been?
Well, I think folks got used to it, truthfully. So I think it used to be a model of, at Vienna, that post, that embassy, they owned that laptop. And owned is sort of a complicated word. The government owns it all, the State Department owns it all, but like they felt that that laptop was to go from you to their next embassy employee. But now they're seeing that this works, right? When a new person comes, they bring a laptop.
Was that the biggest point of resistance, that the people in the individual posts didn't think that it would turn out?
So, yes, because when I first came to state, when I very, very first came, I said, I'm the CIO. I came from Department of War, as you recall. I said, I'm just going to send a memo out that says everyone is allowed to move with their device. And I thought that would work because I wasn't familiar with the State Department sort of bottom-up consensus building, very empowered employees. And they said to me, this is not going to work. We will not do this. And I said, no, I'll tell you to do it. And they said, right, we won't do this. And it's a cultural difference. But so now we've proven to them, this works.
How'd you get over that hump?
Well, we chummed the water with all these laptops. That's how. So, now we're on year 3 of every time new people go to that post, they're bringing their laptop and they're bringing their phone. And it's reduced this fear of like, if I let all my laptops walk out the door, and these are not bad people. These are people who are like, it's my job. I am the diplomatic technologist for this embassy. It is my job to give people the technology they need. I only have so much budget for laptops, and if I let half of them walk out the door, what am I going to do? This is cultural. And they were right to be nervous. But now we've proven to them, we're going to keep this up. When people show up at your post, they're going to have laptops. So you can let laptops leave the post.
What has this meant for the capabilities at each of those installations that are necessary there? And what has it meant budget-wise for these organizations? I imagine there's some value in not having to think about certain things anymore that you've just described.
So it's increasing simplicity for sure. I will say inventory is still a challenge, right? So we have to count these, we're counting noses, we're counting computers, we're counting boxes. But we are optimizing that. This shouldn't be so hard, right? We know what we have, we know where it is. I will say, I think also the reorganization of the State Department has enabled us to be a little more efficient in how we provision services across the board. When I started at State, about 55% of the IT budget was directly under diplomatic technology, and now it's 85%. And what that's meant is we've gotten a lot of sort of economies of scale. We found best of breed. Oh, you're exceptional at using this platform. You can train others or help others. We're driving a lot of efficiencies. And actually, they're occurring in a more organic way than I imagined they would.
Have you been able to take advantage, too, of commoditization of these things, that most people can use this one piece of equipment?
Absolutely. So this is a place where we were treating laptops not as commodities. And that made sense maybe 10 or 15 years ago, but it doesn't make sense today. So we're trying to commoditize everything we can, from end user devices, even to technology. You know what I mean? Being able to build a basic app, let's democratize access to this, sort of like we've done with AI.
What have you been able to drive that doesn't have anything to do with technology necessarily to get to that? Because that strikes me, that gets at the core of almost every acquisition issue that agencies have. There are a lot of other implications there.
So what I tell my folks, and I think this is really true, is that no one cares about AI when the Wi-Fi doesn't work. And so I think diplomatic technology has been, operationally excellent. And what that's done is it's built trust. We've said you don't have to build your own stuff because you can trust that the enterprise capabilities will work. The other thing we're doing is we're being very intentional with business owner versus system owner. So diplomatic technology is now the system owner we just inherited hundreds of applications. It's a lot. But business owners are responsible for their priorities and their requirements. It's our job to provision to them the technology that they need. It's not my job to tell them what their priorities are. So even though I'm the system owner, business owners are running their requirements.
You've talked a couple of times in this conversation and in other conversations that we've had about the people that underpin all of this and what they need to know and how they need to be prepared for the different changes that you roll out. What does that look like now at the department, given workforce changes, given the technology rollouts that we've discussed already in this program and many other factors?
We're really leaning on regionalization. So actually, I just had a wonderful conversation with my team where I said we have to think about who needs to know what. There's customers who are using tech. They have a certain, like for Tech for Life, they need to know you can bring your laptop with you. They don't need to know what we did to Active Directory to make that work. We can tell them, but they don't need to know.
And probably don't care.
Not at all. And then we have diplomatic technology leaders at every post. They need to understand this equipment moves with the customer. This is how you maintain and help them sustain that equipment. If you have a problem, here's who you contact back in DC or regionally. We have really robust regional centers, and we're relying on them a lot. So they both, fly folks all over the world to help in person, but then also they help to communicate, right? It's hard to communicate to a workforce of this size that's this geographically dispersed. So we're relying on regional centers to sort of early identify problems. If you see a problem at 3-4 locations in your region, call us, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And also to help on problems that posts could solve, with additional technical expertise or even just bodies.
How do you maintain the feedback loop to make sure that you're getting all that information that you want and that they know you're getting it and doing something about it so they keep the loop open?
Yeah, that's great. So the regional centers, we have very regular communications between sort of headquarters and regional centers. I have a call quarterly with Senior Foreign Service. For me, it's at usually 9 p.m. for one of them, and I talk to people in Bangkok and Canberra. And so I would say we have very intentional engagement cycles at every level.
We have about a minute left. We haven't talked much about how this is helping you with cost avoidance and saving money. What of these pieces are driving the most financial efficiency for you, Kelly?
This is a great question. So the State Department, I think, has a long history in the IT domain of I'll lend you my pen, and then I will hire someone to watch you use my pen and calculate how much ink you've used, and then you'll give me my pen back, and then this person will tell me how much you owe me for pen ink usage. We're not doing that. You know what I mean? I'm going to give you a laptop. You're going to move around the world with it. When it's time for a refresh, I'll give you a new laptop. I'm not going to dime count. I'm not going to charge. We're really reducing this sort of administrative friction that is associated with complex inventorying of commodities.
Kelly, it's great to have you on the program again. Thanks for joining me today. You can read more about everything Kelly and I talked about on today's show page at fedgovtoday.com. FedGov Today continues in just a moment.